So, sorry about that. Slight interruption. Seems that people want to call in the midst of my testimony Tuesday video. So anyway, I'm in the room and I get on the floor. I get a pallet and I make a pallet on the floor. Of course, the little girl kept trying to get me to get in the bed with her because she was scared and she was used to me sleeping in the bed. I was her shield, sleep in front of her, she sleep behind. So I'm like, no, baby, I can't sleep in the bed. Your mom said no, so I'm on the floor. So I make my pallet on the floor and I'm on the floor that night and I'm trying to go to sleep because it took a while for me to go to sleep because I'm waiting for baby girl to go to sleep. She was having a hard time because she was crying and she wanted me to hold her and she wanted me to pet her on her back because I believe at that time, I think she was like 4. And she was just like, she saw what was going on in the house and she, even though she was 4, I think she understood. So I finally got her to sleep and I laid there and I'm laying on my back and tears are just rolling down my face and I'm just saying to myself, I just want to go home. I just want my mama because I know she ain't going to treat me like this. Like, I know if I go home, I'm good. So I'm laying there and I'm just talking to the ceiling, basically sending my prayers up. I couldn't get to the window to look out and look to the sky because, like I said, my mama trained me, so I knew I had to pray. I didn't know what to say, but I knew to do it. So I'm laying there on the floor and I'm crying and I'm hungry and I'm praying basically, but I wasn't praying prayers like we do today, like Father God thou art and oh you're holy and all. I'm just talking to him like I'm talking to y'all. I'm just talking and I'm like, look, you see the situation I'm in. Why would you let me stay here like this? If you can get me out, if you can give me a way out and show me what to do, I'll do it, this, that, and the other. So I'm just talking. Finally, my eyes close, they get heavy and I fall asleep. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning when I was woken up by stomach pains, hunger pains, and I'm listening first. Everybody in the house sleep. It's quiet. I'm like, girl, sneak up there and get you something out the refrigerator. Get you some leftovers. Don't use the microwave. Eat it cold. I had an issue back then. I would eat stuff cold. I don't know where I got that from. Probably from this situation because it went on well into my adulthood. Sometimes when I'm hungry, I don't need to warm it up. I just go in there and get it and eat it like that. I was in survival mode, I believe. So I go creep out. Um, it was the living room, kitchen, bathroom across that way, the kids' room, our room right here up front. The boys' room was next to ours, and her room was straight back. So I'm peeking to make sure she's in her room, she's not coming out. And I listen and I hear him snoring, so I'm like, okay, everybody sleep. I don't see no light on in her room, her door pulled up like it normally is every night. So she in there asleep. I can go in there. I get up and I tiptoe, barefoot. I tiptoe down the hall to the kitchen. I swear I didn't see that lady sitting at the counter. I ain't see her. I'll tiptoe because it's a straight shot to the refrigerator. The refrigerator, like right, if you come out into the hallway, straight ahead, refrigerator right there. So I go and I get the refrigerator door and it makes a little squeak noise and it open and I'm like, please don't come out, please don't come out. And I look back, so I creep my head around to make sure she was coming out the room. And as I looked over my shoulder, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it was over my left shoulder, and I looked, and what I saw put so much fear in me. Like, I think this was my first encounter with supernatural, whatever. So as I said, I look and I see her sitting. She's sitting at the counter. But she's sitting there and she has this big glass ball in her hand here. And it had a stick on it. And it was up to her mouth. And she had a cigarette lighter under there, flicked it. It was on. And she had and I know it's a pipe. At the time, I really didn't know what it was. I just saw an object. I didn't learn till later that it was a pipe. And the rocks that we were selling, she was smoking. Okay, long story short. So she had the pipe and she had the lighter and as I'm looking at her with the refrigerator open, so the light shining out onto her, along with the cigarette lighter, it's pitch black in the house. She was a real dark skinned lady, real dark skinned, heavy set lady. And she's sitting there and she looking at me. Her eyes got so big, like they bucked out. I don't know if you guys remember that commercial with the pants all lady that could buck her eyes out like that, but that's how it was. Her eyes were so bucked, and the white part of her eye was yellowish. It wasn't white. It wasn't clear to me. And I'm looking, and it looked like the black part, the pupils, were dilating or getting bigger. And it scared me, because as I'm looking at her, she's staring at me, and we're sitting here having a stare off in the dark, okay, for about 30 seconds to a minute, just staring at each other, because I'm scared, because I'm thinking she finna put that down and punch me up, beat me up, or do something, because she told me I couldn't have dinner, and here I was creeping in her refrigerator getting something to eat because I was hungry. But she didn't do that. She was just staring at me, and I'm staring at her, and we both like deers and headlights looking at each other. I'm like, oh, what's next? And instantly I hear in my spirit, which I didn't know what it was at the time, because I was only 17. I hadn't come to the knowledge of Christ just yet. But I heard in my spirit, if you stay here, you're gonna die. And then I let out a big breath. I was like, and then it was her move. She looked, she slammed the lighter down on the table and said, I don't like you, and I'm gonna kill you, just like that. And then she put the lighter back up to it. And so I'm just standing there staring at her like, yeah, that wasn't her saying that to me. It can't be her. She just confessed it. That she gonna murder me for what? What did I do? Then she flicked the lighter, let it down, and she looked at me. She took a puff, and she looked. She let that, whatever it was, out over her right shoulder, and she said, what you waiting on? Get what you gonna get and get out of here. And I just closed the refrigerator with ease. I didn't take nothing out of there. I walked past her, but I was watching my back. I was looking at her while I was walking. I'm looking at her, and I'm walking, and I'm looking at her. And she never turned her head. She just did like this with her eyes. And it was such an evil, piercing look that it pierced me, whew, to the inside, my soul. And I was like, yeah, I didn't understand spiritual things. Now I've been having dreams since I was 8. So I know I've been called by God. Somehow I'm having dreams, visions, but I never knew how to do any of that. I never knew. Anyway, that's something else different. But I knew that was something that wasn't natural. And as I'm going back and I lay on the floor, we was sleeping with the door open. And I pushed that door up because the rules was keep the doors open, but I pushed it up simply because, first of all, that what I just saw, you ain't coming up in here. So I laid back on that floor and I did not close my eyes. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning. I kept my eyes open till 5, 6, and then I decided to close them because I didn't have to work, because all of that happened on Friday and Saturday. We didn't work. I didn't do my summer job on Saturday. So the next day was Saturday, and this is the other part that I'm putting in here with this. Saturday was the block party. So there was a big block party on Trumbull Block Drive, whatever, on block, wherever we were. And it was our building. We had the only building there. It was 3 floors to that building. We stayed on the first floor, and they was on the second, and then they was on the third. And we were the only building right there on the right-hand side if I was coming across the park from my summer job. And on the other side of the street, there were houses. And probably toward the end of the block across the street was another building like ours. So we had this block party going on. Everybody was getting together to, I'm skipping all of the other formalities that really ain't important. That was just the part I wanted to tell you guys. And so the next day we all getting ready for this block party, and I'm thinking I'm in trouble, I'm on punishment, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I had just saw that night, that morning with her and what she said to me. So I just got the girls ready, and she made me comb their hair because she knew I was good at doing that. That was nothing that I was trying to do. If I could say, I didn't even know I had the gift to do hair at the time, but she liked the way I did her daughter's hair. So if she made me do their hair, I did their hair. Got myself together. Didn't know if I was allowed to be a part of the block party or not, but, you know, I got myself together and I sat on the couch. I had cleaned up, swept the floors and everything because dishes were done the night before. We had did breakfast and all that stuff, and then I did wash the breakfast dishes and all that stuff. And she was like a totally different person. She was like, Robin, what you wearing? What you wearing? What you wearing? And I'm just looking at her like, what do I got to wear? I was a Fila fanatic back then, so when I did get some money, when she did give me something, I would buy like a Fila t-shirt. I had some Fila shoes. I just was a Fila person. I just liked it because it had an F on it, and my last name was Fields at the time. That was my I had my dad's last name. So anyway, she nice to me at that moment, and she like, you gonna go outside? And I was like, if you say I can. She was like, girl, you're 17, you could do it. I'm sitting here like, what? I'm just wondering like, what's going on? Then I started thinking she was setting me up. I was like, oh, them girls didn't get me, they gonna be back over here. So I'm just thinking all kind of stuff. Well, the block party started, everybody outside. I'm standing in the doorway watching everything, for one, because she didn't initially tell me. She said, girl, you 17, you can go outside. But she didn't. She said, y'all, well, Robin, come on. We had the coolers. Everybody had what they had. They had a square table outside under the building in the shade. They had their fans plugged up, you know, the cords reaching into the house, sitting outside so it can keep them cool and everything. Chicago weather ain't nothing like Mississippi weather. It wasn't that kind of hot, but when it got hot, it got hot. So those were our ACs back then. They had the fan blowing, so they had the card table outside where the adults were playing cards outside, and the kids were outside. The girls was jumping rope on one side, and the boys were playing basketball. And back in those days, you didn't need a hoop. It was okay if you went to play on a hoop and everything, but they would use the building. They would bounce the ball, and they would slam dunk it on the building or whatever, and that's your points. You know, like that. So everybody played well into the nighttime. It was probably about 9 o'clock. And that's when everything changed. So we outside, you know, we in and out the house. We made ice cups out of the Kool-Aid and stuff like that. So we had stuff to cool us off. And everybody on the blockhead did stuff and made stuff, and everybody was sharing everybody's everything. Well, come nightfall, the girls, we jumping rope, and they never asked me to play, so I was just standing there looking at everybody, everything. So somebody finally asked, hey Robin, you want to jump rope with us? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I started off turning. I'm doing my turn, just turning, and then it was my turn to jump. Now it's dark outside. I noticed that the boys over there are arguing, and then some boys say, I'm gonna fix you, I'm gonna go get my brother, so and so, whoever. So two boys, the adults was like, y'all gonna carry that on, because these two boys came from the other block. You know, it still was our block, but they were across the street, and I guess the other, in some houses, or so they came back with somebody else, but not right away. They went on because the parents told them to go ahead on, and we're jumping rope, and as it's my turn, I'm getting to get in. By this time the boys had come back with somebody, so now you hear the arguing again, and then you hear the parents, they getting louder, playing the cards. Oh, I got it, you know, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, they not paying attention to them boys. They done came back with somebody. So instantly, I'm pausing to get in a rope, and they was like, you ain't ready. So I'm like, I'm trying to get in, somebody else jumped in, and I'm like, okay, so I gotta wait my turn. And when she finished jumping, they was like, oh, y'all move back, it's Robin's turn. So I'm getting ready. You know how we do, y'all. We girls do that motion. We trying to get ready to jump in the rope. And I instantly, my eyes catch hold to this tall dude coming towards us. He was so tall. It was unnormal kind of tall. And he was so light-skinned. It was dark now. Now, I've seen light-skinned people at night, but this was an unusual light skin. It was a bright light, because he was far away. When I laid eyes on him, and I noticed he wasn't dressed like us. He didn't look like us. He had on a long, what I thought was a trench coat or robe, and he just walking calmly, tall, with his hands down by his side, just walking with a blank, straight face. And he walks, and he gets maybe, I want to say 5 feet away from the rope as I'm getting ready to jump in. So I wasn't taking that long, because he came fast. It's like he was taking long steps. It was unreal to see how fast he was coming, but he was calm with it. So he was coming, and as he coming, and I'm getting ready to jump, and I'm looking, the young lady from the second floor, she was 12 years old. She was taller than me. She was skinnier than me, and she was a little rowdier than me. She was one of them girls. I'm just gonna say rowdy because I wasn't. You know, I was quiet and calm. I wasn't the bout it, I'll knock you out kind of girl. But she was. So she was like, forget this. And she pushed me instead of jumping in like the other person did, like you take it too long, she pushed me down. And I'm looking up, I'm on the ground, I'm looking at her like, cause I didn't scrape my knee and my arm, cause she pushed me really hard. Like she had something against me anyway, because my godmama would talk to her parents, and they just all had issues with me. Never done anything to any of those people. So she pushed me and I fell, and she got in the rope and she was jumping and she was laughing, and it's like, you stupid bitch, you should have been. And I'm just like, oh mama, I'm right there, and just letting her curse. So as I'm down there on the ground, I'm looking, and I just, my eyes fixed on the man that was 5 feet away from me, and he looked down at me. He just, oh God, he just looked. When he looked, it pierced me like the night before, that morning before, when I saw her with the thing. That pierced me. It was something supernatural. And he just nodded his head like, you good, stay down. And as I'm looking up, when my head raised up and I see him do that, pack, the guys that had came over, they had shot. And everybody started scrambling, running. Some people hit the ground. I know the girl that had pushed me, she hit the ground. So the parents are screaming. It was only one person got shot that day, and that was the young lady who pushed me, because the boy who was arguing, his back was turned towards me, and I was getting ready to get in the rope, and the boy who was arguing with him, who came from the other block, had the gun. And when he shot at him, it's like when he took it out, the boy saw him and he ducked. Don't ask me. He ducked, and the bullet missed him and hit her, because she pushed me. Now, had she not pushed me and I've been in the rope, that bullet was meant for me. And I believe that guy was my angel. I swear, I believe he was my angel. And he just looked at me like, stay down. Because when it shot her, her back was turned. Like I said, the boy's back was turned towards me. So it would have got me in my side. But it got her, because she was doing some things in the rope. You know, you do your jumping up and down, then you do your double, whatever. I can't remember what it's called. But she had turned, and it got her in the back. So her parents ended up getting her and taking her to the hospital. They weren't going to wait for the police because it took too long for them to get to the projects, okay? So they put her in a car and they took her to the hospital. They came back later on. I'm skipping now because my time, I don't want to go over my time. They came back with a report, and they told us that she was critical condition. It hit her in her back by her spine, so it hit her in the spine, and she was paralyzed from the waist down. And they were crying because the doctors didn't expect her to make it, and this, that, and the other. And we're listening to this, and I'm sitting there, and all I could do, I'm just crying and I'm praying. But my mind is on that guy who walked up in that robe. Because what I didn't say is, when he walked off after he nodded, he turned around and he walked off. And as he walked, I'm looking at him walk, and he just was gone. I didn't even, it's like I blinked for 1 second, because I'm like, that ain't real. Like, he nodded, he looked at me, he nodded, and then he blinked, I blinked, and he was gone. And that's why I say he was my angel. And I'm sitting there on the couch, and I'm talking to the boy who tricked on me, who I gave the other rock to, and he gave it back and tricked on me. I'm talking to him, the sister of my godmom who stayed there as well, and some other little kids from upstairs, because the mom and dad had to take her to the hospital, and her little brother and sister had to come down there with us, and my godmom had went to the hospital too, and so did the guy that was selling drugs. All of them all the adults went to the hospital, and I guess they left them out with me because I was the oldest. I was 17. So we in the house, nobody allowed to open the door. The police finally got there. Everybody was gone. They trying to get answers, whatever. Nobody could open the door. So nobody opened the door. Nobody said nothing. Nobody saw nothing. So I'm telling them, I'm like, yo, that bullet was meant for me. And they like, what you talking about? And I was like, the bullet was meant for me. I said, but an angel spared me. I was like, if she hadn't pushed me, I would have got shot. Oh, that made them angry. They were so angry. They were enraged. They were mad. And then they told, behind my back, of course, they shared it with the adults. And I hear later through one of the little girls, because she was over there with us on the block. She was a part of my little gang too, because I was in the gang, I told y'all. And I had named us the BBs. We were the bold stitches with a B instead of the ST. And so she was listening, and she told me that she said, Robin, they gonna kill you. They gonna jump on you because they feel like you had got her shot. They feel like you a witch. They saying you a witch. And I said, a what? They said they think you're a witch. They think that you got some kind of supernatural power that you working something. Because if you knew that that was going to happen, you should have said something. I said, no, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. She was like, well, that's what they said. They was plotting, and I heard them talking about it. And when she told me that, I was like, Robin, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And they were plotting, but they were doing it in such a way that they didn't want me to know what they were doing. Hence, I have to stop here at this time. I will finish it with the end of this next week, and this will be the last of this session of my life. It is kind of still a little painful, but at the same time, hopefully it helps somebody. So I will finish that next week because it'll be the last of this area of my life. But I pray that as you listen to that, you understand, young people, that there is no place like home. Please listen to your parents. Please take the time to just hear your parents, listen to their guidance, because they're here to help you, as I said last week. And I believe at that time, even though I did not know how to pray, I did not know, I didn't have a Bible to read or find the scriptures, I always knew God was with me. I don't know how I knew that. I just always knew. I knew that was my angel. At the time, I didn't have wisdom in the spiritual things to not run my mouth and say those things to people who may not be spiritual and may not understand where I was coming from. All I meant was that God blocked the devil again. Every time he tried to take me out, he could not do it. And it just brings me to a place where I think about the Psalm of David, where he said in Psalms 34:4, he said, I sought the Lord and he heard me and he delivered me from all my fears. At that time in my life, I had so many fears, but God's mercy covered me. He delivered me out of all of those fears, all those issues I had. And I believe also in that same stance in verse 6, where he said, this poor man cried out and the Lord heard me and he saved me out of all of my troubles. I had so many troubles with those people and I didn't understand why. I was just keep getting in trouble with them when I wasn't really doing anything. I wasn't deceitful, I wasn't conniving, I wasn't lying, I wasn't doing any of those things. But they found some way to turn everything around on me because they wanted me gone. And I believe if God's hand wasn't on me, this poor man that cried out, it could have went a whole different way. And when I say this poor man, like the Psalms of David 34:6, this poor man that cried out and the Lord heard him, I'm not talking about the kind of poor that is impoverished and don't have any money. Of course I didn't have any things like that, material things. I mean poor in spirit. My spirit was poor. I needed help. I didn't know which way to go. I had so many troubles. I didn't have the knowledge to not turn to God in such a way. All I knew was just to talk to him. So I believe that God heard me and he answered. And I just want to encourage you young people on today, find God for yourself and check out his mercies, because it's so good. And when he spared you, you got to know it's him. It was only him that spared me all those times with all those troubles. And next week, I just hope you guys tune in. So I hope that encouraged you. I'm trying to learn how to word it because I don't know if you know this, but I'm still not comfortable talking about certain things. But when the Lord say tell it, you tell it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And it's not telling it to tell my business so I can look crazy or anything like that. It's to encourage and uplift somebody. There's nothing in your life that you go through that God isn't there with you. There's nothing in your life too bad that when you share it, it won't help somebody else. You never know. Somebody might be contemplating running away. They might be contemplating getting away from their family because they feel like they're in a bad situation with their mom and dad. But then you escape that situation to go into another one that's even more dangerous. No. So I would just encourage you to find the Lord for yourself. Repent for your sins, because repenting, it brings you closer to God. It changes you. You are no longer that same person that you were. But when you repent, you don't go back into doing the same thing, but you turn a deaf ear, your flesh, you just turn deaf to all of the person that you were, and you start hearing from God, seeking God, listening to God, and that's what changes you into a new creature, a new person in Christ. And don't beat yourself up about the stuff you did wrong. Don't beat yourself up if you made a mistake, if you went a different route. I just want to encourage somebody, because I did that my entire life. I beat myself up every time I made a mistake. If I said something wrong, if I did something wrong, if I made somebody feel some type of way, I'm beating myself up. You have to learn to have grace. God gave us grace. He gives grace to us that we may show grace to ourselves and others. So, God bless you. Again, thank you for stopping in for this segment of Testimony Tuesdays. I will finish it up next week with the end of this, and then we'll jump into something else. I pray that every time I open my mouth to tell one of my stories, that it will help you in such a way that you will seek God for the answers for the things that you need, because you're never too far away. God is never so high, and his hands are never too short that he can't look down and reach and grab you from where you are and turn you around. God bless you. Thank you for viewing today. You have a good one. Until next time.